so much for being here with us tonight at Echo Base TV, where community happens. Echo Base Network. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight at Echo Base TV, where community happens.
Welcome back, guys. Another EBN cast, episode 20. Our brother Stone Loki is out today. He's actually out of town. So our brother Culture Casino is here joining us today. Welcome, Culture. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I was just gonna go outside and sweat otherwise, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, and then we're obviously always joined by the great Mexican Ironman and John F. Trent. How you fellas doing?
It's always a pleasure to be on a stream with the most famous YouTuber of all time.
Yes.
Would that be Culture Casino?
No.
Who would that be? Nick.
The Mexican Ironman is the most famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the only person.
In fact, I was quite honored when on a Midnight Ed stream in the comment section last Friday, I appeared on the Midnight Ed show last Friday. I was going to do this show and then things went south work-wise, but someone made the comment that when Mexican Ironman was just a Hollywood or Disney insider, I was good, but when I decided to start being a YouTube personality, that's when all the shows got ruined. So I'm using that comment as evidence that the people have spoken, and Mexican Ironman is not, should not be, and never would be a YouTuber. For the people have spoken, and I am not wanted nor desired, except by Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hey, how's it going?
I don't know. I think we should put a poll up. I think we should poll the chat.
No.
I could definitely poll the chat.
No, we don't want to poll the chat. That we trust that the chat knows that I'm not a YouTuber, so we're gonna trust the people, and we don't like elections. I'm in America, and one thing I've learned is we don't like elections anymore or votes.
That's true.
Where's Loki? He didn't make it.
He is in Galveston, Texas. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He told me that.
Yeah, and he got why is it not letting me? Oh, I know. There we go. His channel got struck on a member stream. But thank God he got it reversed to a warning. It's going to be like a day or two before he's able to live stream again.
A copyright strike, or what kind of strike?
So he did a members only stream, and one of his panelists was showing off one of his guns, and you can't show any firearms on a live stream. So you
can do videos about it.
Yeah, you can do videos.
You can't show them live.
Yeah, you just can't show it live. So that's what it was. But he's good. He got it squared away, and they're getting it taken care of. Real quick, guys, there's 4 ways you can support the show here. 1, EBN memberships. Me and Coach are going to be making some changes to membership stuff to where we're going to be doing way more member only streams, but stay tuned for the details on that. Patreon, where we post tons of stuff that YouTube will not let us post here. You can watch all our full-blown reactions to all the episodes of the Wokalite that comes out starting next week over there, and then of course our brand new merch store. And then if you want to be a part of the conversation and having topics that you guys want to hear us hit on, of course, Super Chats is the way to do that. But without further ado, hold on. I got.
Did you coin the Wokalite? Because they used it in the New York Times. They used that in the New York Times article to attack us. I thought that was funny.
I used the Wokalite in my video as well.
Yeah, you just used it in one of your videos yesterday, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people have been using that for quite some time. I think it may have even been coined on FNT, not that many weeks ago. So
I just find it funny. The New York Times is trying to attack us for mocking the show.
Well, yeah. Well, they deserve to be mocked as well. My goodness, they're terrible.
Yep. And we're going to be hitting on some of that here in just a bit too. But what were you going to say, Culture?
Oh no, just that the stuff that's coming out of Lucasfilm right now just tells you who they are. I mean, I hope you have the clip that we're gonna talk about, the clip that just kind of
the Anakin one
started circling. Yes.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
So I haven't seen this clip, so I have no idea what you're gonna get a Mexican Ironman live reaction. I don't know what you're talking about.
Be prepared to laugh your ass off, Mike.
No.
There's 2 of them.
Yeah,
the one from Gary too. Okay.
Yeah, I got both of them queued up, ready to go. But first, I want to hit on something interesting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is something that just dropped yesterday. This is Alien Rogue Incursion, which is a PlayStation VR game that's coming out. This looks pretty badass for anybody that has a PS5 with a PlayStation VR 2. I don't have one, but I might actually consider getting one just for this. I played through Alien Isolation and absolutely loved that game. And doing it in VR, oh man, it especially if you play at night at home by yourself, it's pretty freaky. But let's take a quick look at this. Let me know how the audio is.
We can hear it.
So if you guys got a PC. And they actually had
but I want to know, what are this alien's pronouns?
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Yeah, so I don't know what the aliens' pronouns are, but and I'm not going to go through all this, but here's they did release some some gameplay footage. I thought that was the trailer that had the gameplay footage, but it is not. Yeah, because this was 1 month ago. Let's see. Gameplay. Here we go. Yeah, this is it right here. Let me. Loki 354.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, that looks freaky as shit. So that is something I'm definitely looking forward to. Do you guys have VR headsets?
Hell yeah. You know, Mexican Ironman got all the toys.
Yeah. Culture, John, do you guys have VR headsets?
No.
I've got a couple of different VR systems, including Vive. So,
yeah.
Well, I'm just Culture Casino. I just have everything.
No, I thought it was a neat thing, and there aren't as many games that are neat to play in VR as you would think.
Yeah, I got one. The only one I got is for the PS4, but one of the best VR experiences I ever had was with the first Battlefront game, the X-Wing VR mission that you got to play, where like all the buttons in the cockpit worked and everything. I bought it mainly just to play that one mission, and I was hoping Star Wars Squadrons was going to be similar to that, but it just turned out to be a woke DEI garbage fest of a game that absolutely sucked, unfortunately. But then there was a haunted roller coaster game on there that was pretty fun, where you had like dual pistols and you were on this little like roller coaster with all these like zombies and ghost monsters and stuff that would pop out. That was pretty freaky. And then of course playing Alien Isolation with it was pretty crazy. But I thought that looked pretty cool. Looking forward to that. Just wanted to show that because it was something positive to talk about before we get into this other topic that I wanted to hit on that we were talking about a minute ago. The freaking Acolyte marketing is in full effect. So I believe John F. Trent found these and sent them to Jonas, and then Jonas retweeted them, and then Gary saw them and he retweeted. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, so I pointed this. Jonas, I think, shared the video in like the Park Place Slack chat, and like I actually watched it and was like told him that's what he says here. I don't want to spoil it for the most famous YouTuber of all time here.
Yeah, so let's hear what this guy, this moron right here, has to say.
Well, Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people died on that? Well, Anakin just killed
what?
Death Star. How many people died on that? Well, Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people died on that? Well, Anakin.
So Anakin, he's talking about Anakin blowing up the Death Star.
Time. Hold on. I'd like to I'm going to my Star Wars penalty. Mexican Ironman as Star Wars referee, guest referee. I'd like to throw the flag. Throwing the challenge flag.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Foul. Yeah. That'd be a personal Star Wars foul. 15
Look
yards.
At Daphne. Look at Daphne Keaton's face when he says it.
She looked at him like, "What the?"
Yeah.
Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people died on that? Well, Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people
Anakin, what?
Well, like, Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people
But it gets better because later on in the interview, he talks about it again.
No.
Yes.
No.
I I did get in trouble for this answer at Star
You
Wars
got
Con.
heat.
I got heat.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's so funny to me because it literally, as a person who's outside and just a fan coming in, that was what was so beautiful and
Wait,
interesting.
stop,
No.
stop.
People have been talking.
Stop again. I'm going back to the flag. Stop. Personal foul for lying, because how can you be a fan coming in? You're already in the Star Wars universe. I don't think Mexican Ironman has been a fan of Star Wars for decades. I would never say, what does he mean? Coming into the movie? No, you are a Star Wars fan. It's in your DNA, it's in your blood or nothing. All right, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm starting to get triggered here. I'm in a conference room at my client's office, and I'm starting to start screaming here. I'm going to get in trouble.
All right.
Go again.
I did get in trouble for this answer at Star
You
Wars
got
Con.
heat.
I got heat.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's
And this is a whole nother group of people. So he left
Yeah,
the
it's a different
set.
interview.
Yeah, he left the set with the one group of people and is doing an interview with a whole nother group of people. Nobody said anything to him, obviously.
so funny to me because it literally, as a person who's outside and just a fan coming in, that was what was so beautiful and interesting to me. You know, people have been talking to me online about how Darth Vader is such a bad person. It's very clear, and it's very well established from those actions. But if you can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this right now.
You should just shut
then
up.
it's just,
You should just shut up.
You should just shut up.
Wow, the co-star just told him that he should shut up.
and millions of people, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this right now.
You should just shut
then
up.
it's just,
And this interview is being conducted by Perry Nemiroff from Collider.
Collider. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how they conduct? So if you're not familiar with how they do this stuff and why they look like they're in the same clothes, they basically have them all come into a room, and then the media people like change spots after like 5 minutes or whatever. They usually get like 2 to 5 minutes to like ask their questions.
Yeah, the
But
junk.
clearly here this is probably like after lunch break or something, because they switched up who they were with.
Yeah,
He's still with Daphne, but they switched out Leslie Headland's civil
Girlfriend,
union
wife.
person
yeah,
with this other guy here.
yeah.
This is
so
great.
So obviously these people don't know anything about Star Wars, and Leslie Headland had said it in the past of hey, I want to get people that don't know Star Wars to be a part of this, not only writing but obviously acting in it as well.
Except he's claiming he is a fan. He's like, he goes
Yeah.
throughout all these interviews claiming that he's such a big fan. And like, I'm sorry, he said it twice. Like, you're not a fan if you don't know that Luke.
Gosh, John, you're talking like as if they would lie to us.
Yeah,
What's the
They
matter
do
with
it all
you?
the time.
You freaking bigot.
yep.
Such a bigot.
And the marketing for this crap show is obviously in full effect now. We're a couple days away. If you go to the Star Wars Twitter page, oh, and look at this. This was an hour ago. They're advertising these Lothcat mugs. It's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Like, who is going to be rushing to the theme park to grab one of these?
This is what they did for the Marvels. They like went to like a cat place with the Flurkin. They did like a whole like cat daycare thing to try and promote the Marvels. They were like doing like a live stream with cats.
Like, what?
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. It's like they're stuck in like the 90s where it's like cat videos on the internet where everything, and they're like, oh, people on the internet like cats. Let's do cat stuff. And of course they got merch, and then it's just tons and tons of Acolyte news and spots and interviews. This interview, if you guys hadn't seen it, we covered it on our stream last night. Dave Filoni and Leslie Headland was just abysmal. Have you guys
haven't
seen
it? No, it's on my radar, but I haven't like sat down and watched it.
Two directors talk about Star Wars.
It's only 2
sounds
minutes,
good.
so
That does
we'll-
sound good. Let's do. Two directors talk about Star Wars.
That sounds good.
That does
Let's
sound
do
good.
that. Actually
Let's do.
like
Tell me about the acolyte.
I'm sorry, just you asking me that question is making me cry.
Is it? That's all right.
Yeah.
It is a big deal to a lot of people. It affects people in different ways, and this is your story, so.
What I was interested in examining were the Sith. The master-apprentice dynamic. If the apprentice is craving the master's power, then at some point he must recruit his apprentice to overthrow the master.
Yeah.
And that is the acolyte.
Right.
Who trained you? You don't wake up thinking you're evil or that you're the
Sure.
bad guy, as explored by George in Anakin.
Yeah, I don't think Anakin ever thinks he becomes evil.
I
In
agree.
life,
And I
you
think
know.
a lot of the characters.
Did you hear what Filoni said?
What?
Yeah. he's
Dave
wrong.
Filoni, the head creative at Lucasfilm. I don't think Anakin ever really became evil. Hang on.
I'm
That's why he
quite sure.
repents. That's why he repents in Return of the Jedi, because he knows what he's done is wrong. Stop it. You didn't like, what are you even talking about?
As explored by George in Anakin.
Yeah, I don't think Anakin ever thinks he becomes evil.
I
in
agree.
life.
I don't think Anakin ever becomes evil.
I don't think
You
Dave
think he
Filoni
ever
is.
does?
I don't think Dave Filoni is realizing he's a freaking moron.
I mean, really? Filoni, you worked under George Lucas. What are you talking about? Well, let's continue.
And I think a
You
You
lot
don't
of
even have
the
to work under
characters
George
in the
Lucas to
Acolyte
know
have
that. You just have
Yeah.
to watch Return of the Jedi.
They are
Doing the right thing.
They're doing the right thing.
This is the Clone Wars.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ahsoka was such an interesting character to me.
When we started, we had it very much a shell shock moment for her that she was out of her depth. And I'll never forget it. George watching it and saying, "You guys are taking this a bit too seriously." He went on to explain that, like, even at a young age, she's not out of her depth for any of this.
I had a similar experience with the character Jackie. There was a note from somebody that was, wouldn't she be scared on her first mission? And I remember you telling me about that story.
Jedi training has to be valuable. It
These
prepares them
people
for the
literally
galaxy.
don't understand Jedi. Like, they literally
No.
don't. They don't understand that these people are trained as children to master their emotions, that they're in full control. The Jedi aren't going to go send out like some noob who doesn't have any kind of training or anything to be unprepared. These people are full of confidence. Like, they literally don't
Yeah.
even understand what they're doing.
No.
It's amazing that they say all this stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
Do or do not.
Do or do not, there's no try. That's like, if you're trying, you're not actually doing it.
I had to do that with Acolyte for sure. My agreement with myself was whenever it overwhelms you that you're doing your dream, you just have to do it. Honestly, the
Oh, for
times that I
God's
felt
sake.
the most worried was not the special effects, the fighting choreography. It was the emotional stuff.
These things that George understood about filmmaking, understood about iconography, are things we still try to tap into.
It's the Western. It's the samurai film. It has to feel elevated, but it also has to feel like Star Wars. Basically, what George created, it's the North Star.
God, what is this with Disney and this North Star talk?
No
North
clue.
Star. What is that?
I guess they're saying, look
I
to
think
what
they're
George
trying-
created is like the go-to point, but they are so far from what George did. It's like they're in a completely other galaxy. They're at the South Star.
They're lost on the ocean and there's clouds over the star and they can't even see it.
What are you?
So that was that.
Oh,
interview.
I gotta write a couple articles on this. Jeez.
Yeah.
What did you see that we're
Oh, the fact that he thinks that Anakin never realized he was evil. That's completely contradictory to Return of the Jedi. I definitely feel like that's newsworthy. I mean, this is supposed to be the chief creative, and he doesn't understand the most popular, arguably the most popular Star Wars character.
The main character, pretty much, for the most part, one of the main characters through the first 6 films. Culture. You
Like,
over
Luke
there
literally says
pondering
there's still
over
good
there.
inside him.
I have a tempest brewing inside of me. Honestly, look, if it wasn't part of my job, I wouldn't give my time to any of this.
Yeah.
I have yet to see anything compelling, intriguing, or anything tied to any of this. Disney, Star Wars, in fact, Disney anything right now, just doesn't offer much. doesn't offer a
You
good
don't
story.
like 12 lightsabers lighting up at the same time culture? That doesn't excite you?
Yeah, but hey, look, all I know is that moment is Taste the Rainbow lightsaber edition.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you that I'm unimpressed now. I mean, it's the gone are the days of excitement and anticipation, of like maybe Mace Windu or something like that. There's nothing there, and there's nothing there good. I mean, I said it today in a tweet. I mean, Disney has the best liars. They just don't have the best of anything else. And when it comes to Star Wars, they lie. That guy is not a Star Wars fan. I mean, at the very beginning of this segment, we pointed out that Anakin destroying the Death Star, but that's the least of the problems. Your director, a showrunner, whatever you want to call her, Leslie Headland, which would be Weinstein's former personal assistant, she said she loves all the Star
She's
Wars.
now the first female Star Wars creative of her own show, according to the New York Times.
I don't think that's true, but it's fine. It's just I don't get it. I've said this before. I said it today on another stream, in fact, and I'll say it again. When this show fails, it's women's fault. Yeah, and it's women's fault for a lot of reasons. I obviously pointed the finger at KK specifically, but I got to thinking even more in depth about this. This show is targeted at women. It's not targeted at men. It's completely abandoned its fan base, which is why they talk about it being such a struggle to appeal to a male fan base, because you don't know how to write men. You also don't know how to write women, so you got problems. And you're looking for a kick save from a female audience that doesn't exist. I mean, you have women that like Star Wars. I know, I've met a lot of them, but they aren't the overwhelming or primordial group. Thank you. We're the primordial ooze, guys, just so you know. Hey, get excited. You're ooze. But if you don't have a huge women turnout for this show, which I'm telling you is going to be non-existent, this thing is going to be a disaster. And the only reason you go so hard in the paint on the way you're marketing this, especially the last few days when they're ramping up the individual segments like you guys are leaning into, little interviews and things like that, this is a disaster. They know it's a disaster. I guarantee you this tested terribly. And they spent so much money and time on it, 4 years to spend $180 million on eight episodes. Yeah. I mean, I could get enraged and, give you a little rant. I'm not as good at it as Mike, but I recorded a video on this, a 26-minute long video on this, just venting my spleen. I don't know anybody that would have any positive feelings about this. The visuals are not, at times they're too crisp, like a soap opera, and at other times they are barely discernible. The scene in the cantina, which is supposed to give you reference points to Mos Eisley's, that's a dusty, dirty saloon in a cowboy movie, more so than it is what happened in Mos Eisley. There was light in Mos Eisley. There's no light in that
desert
scene.
planet too.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I'm looking around going, none of this feels right, and there's a reason. It's because they're trying to give you the Let's Get High Republic, and which has been roundly rejected by everyone. Looking at the book sales, they can't even get kids to buy those books at the Scholastic Book Fair. So what does that tell you? Nope. There's no future for Star Wars. Go ahead.
The one thing I was a little bit surprised by was the fact that they went so hard in the paint, and it took them this long to do that. I thought since we had gotten to this point, they weren't going to do that. Because I thought they had finally maybe learned their lesson. It didn't work for Captain Marvel. It didn't work for the Marvels. It wasn't working for pretty much anything that they had been doing. And so they were kind of going to back off on that. They released the little violin promo with Amanda playing the violin to a John Williams piece. And it was okay, well, maybe they're actually not going to do any of this stuff. And then there it is, the New York Times piece. And it's well, thank you. Now you are the news, and it's all bad press. It's all it is.
And they talked about the I can't remember the character's name, but the lesbian witch who's the mother of the twins.
Yeah, Jodie Turner-Smith's character.
Yeah, and that's one of the main characters in this, who we now have our very first gay character officially in a Star Wars show, not just a
So she's-
background NPC character.
She's actually the mother of the twins, and so she conceive them through the Force, or what is going on here?
We think that she just liked the D for a little while and then switched to scissoring.
She switched teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, who knows?
Like,
They'll
that
probably-
they're gonna have to explain that now in the show. Like, that's all this, like, just so they can inject that stuff and try and push that stuff in actual reality. It's just a vehicle for propaganda.
Yeah. Mike, thoughts on all this?
I think we should start every show every Friday from now on, and we should start with a pronoun declaration, and we should also have a land acknowledgement.
Hey, I'm down.
I'm kidding. Coach, I really liked hearing you. I heard what you said on Midnight Edge earlier this morning, and I thought it was, I mean, you came out of the gate swinging, and the perspective that you offered wasn't as simple as say, I think some people might take what you said in your video and on Midnight Edge in your comments just now is like, okay, well, women can't do anything right. It's not really about that. It's more analytical than that, which is that you had your observation, if I understand it correctly, is that guys wanted to be involved in Star Wars, but they're pushed back. Second is that guy fans want to like this stuff, but they're pushed back and repelled. Third is that the women essentially making sure that other women that they work with are in charge, and they throw that offering out. And then when it fails, I mean, at one level you're saying, okay, women put in charge of Star Wars is a failure, but the reason why it's a failure is because of how they've put themselves in charge and how they've executed their own plan. And that is proof positive that when you let women run Star Wars, or at least this particular group of women, that we get these results. Because certainly I know within Echo Base Network, I've partied with, Donna, and I mean, the list, I can go on and on and on, but they're not the women that are the true fans of Star Wars. They're these other weirdos that have no true love. Am I describing what your observation was?
No, you're right. And again, I did present it a little more analytically there, but no, that's 100% right. I mean, you just have to take Kathleen Kennedy's word for it in that Fortune magazine interview that she did a year or so or two
2015.
ago. Yeah,
2015.
thank you.
It was before.
Yeah, so it's wow. Okay, so it's way back then.
It's like a decade.
Yeah, so she was heck bent on making the majority of the people in her executive team women. That's all she talks about in that interview is I have 6 of 8 of the people in my story group are women, 6 of 8. She kept boiling down the numbers and the fact that she was rejecting men in favor of women, despite the fact that there were few of them that were coming to her.
Yeah, she admits there were like no female directors that were interested. It was all
that
men.
were interested in. Yeah. And so, it tells you more and more. So the only way you're bringing these females in is so you can do this activism. And these teams are made up of activists. So again, when you are preaching the capital F in feminism, and in your organization, and that's all you lean lean into, obviously you're going to get all the activism that resides in that group. Also, if I were a Wiccan person right now, and I'm not, but if I were, I'd be very kind of angered by the fact that they're presenting, my witchcraft or witch beliefs or whatever, as lesbian.
Yeah.
Because I wonder how Dave Filoni's wife feels about it.
Well, the other thing too is that
I knew that was going to come up.
The other thing too is that making the comment that there were no women that were breaking down the door. Well, that completely goes against the narrative that patriarchy and toxic masculinity has stopped women from being let in the door which in reality there's a door, but you got to knock on the door to be let in.
Yeah,
sure. You're just pointing out that they'll spin any narrative that they want to, as long as that they're the ones that maintain the power.
Well,
exactly.
Sure, but again, I mean, I couldn't imagine, a group of sane people creating the products that we've been seeing. But you're right, Mike. In the case of quote unquote the gatekeeping, all you have to do is be qualified. You need to, and that's the other problem, right? You're bringing in people that aren't qualified to handle big projects like this. And if you're dwelling on the future failure of something, which is what all of this is, Mike, right? This is what all these conversations are, from the Times article that we have been citing to the pieces that have been spun out of it, from Screen Rant to Variety, from That Park Place to other outlets like Bounding and so on. When you see all the articles spinning out of this, having the different conversational elements that are happening there, you come to realize that maybe if you had qualified people. And I'm not talking about women. I'm saying, if you want to be activist about it, you can do that in a responsible way. I think there's a lot of irresponsibility on Kathleen Kennedy's part, and Disney in the broader sense. Now it's all they're focused in on is check boxes. I'm going to tell you, and this is from personal knowledge, there is a giant group of older, now retired and or forced out creatives at every level at Disney that were gay or lesbian that got pushed out the door as well. I am surprised that they're not trying to distance themselves from a gay man like Gurr. Gurr made almost everything that moves at Disney. All the ride systems. He was the guy that created the modern monorail. He's the guy that got trains running there. He's the guy that created the Omnimover attraction system, and he's gay. Do you know what? Walt didn't care. Nobody cared. It's an open secret. Entertainment, you have a lot of gay and lesbian people in it. That's just the way it is. So it's not like you had to fight for representation. What you had to do is make it so that's the only thing that the people were focused on. And that's what Star Wars has become.
Yeah.
Anyway, doesn't matter. So there's that. And again, I don't care if it's good. Mike, you would support almost anything if it was good. I would.
Well, I would support anything, even if it's bad, even if it's remotely entertaining. For example, I actually liked Atlas that just came out on Netflix. And I know it's a bad movie, but given how much garbage I've been watching, I think I kind of enjoyed it.
Is that the Jennifer Lopez mech?
Yeah, that's Jenny from Around the Block.
The robot with the pronouns.
Yeah, the robot.
Hey, I'm telling you. Okay, who here on the panel saw the movie?
I've not watched it.
I didn't see the movie.
Okay, then I'm telling you, when that thing came out, it was a joke. It was not to be taken seriously. It was when that scene happened, it was a joke.
Okay. I'll have to check it out this weekend. So you actually liked it then, Mike?
Yeah, I did. I haven't had a chance to debate Paul Chatto about it because he hated it and I liked it. But I got bigger problems with Paul Chatto, like getting him back on X right now. I've been in a bad mood. I mean, the election didn't bother me, but I think I'm mostly mad because my good friend Paul Chatto got kicked off of Twitter. That's why I'm really. That's like I was in a rage yesterday over this.
That's understandable.
Anyway, not to change the subject. Back to Star Wars. We're a Star Wars channel, right?
No, that's it. We only cover Star Wars here.
I don't think so. I think Nick and Coach might disagree with that, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, we still hit on it, obviously, and we're going to cover it when news is out. But this kind of leads into another topic that I wanted to hit on that John F. Trent wrote an article about. And this is the George R. Martin blasts Hollywood screenwriters and producers for believing they can improve source material when they ultimately end up making it worse. And I think this is exactly what we're seeing with Disney Star Wars. And I thought this was a good lead-in from all this acolyte garbage that we're getting. And I'm not going to go through this whole article. You guys go over, check out That Park Place. But there is one thing I wanted to hit on right here. So he says, it says, everywhere you look, there are more screenwriters and producers eager to take great stories and make them their own. It does not seem to matter whether the source material was written by Stan Lee, Charles Dickens, Ian Fleming, Roald Dahl, Ursula, blah, 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 blah. All these people. No matter how major a writer it is, no matter how great the book, there always seems to be someone on hand who thinks he can do it better, eager to take the story and improve upon it. And he continues, the book is the book, the film is the film. They will tell you as if they were saying something profound. Then they make the story their own. They never make it better, though. 999 times out of 1,000, they make it worse. However, he did note that sometimes they do indeed get it right, as he praised FX's recent Shogun adaptation. Once in a while, though, we do get a really good adaptation of a really good book. And when that happens, it deserves applause. And I'll add another one to that I thought was good, which was One Piece that came out last year. I thought they did a great job on that, and a lot of people that I know that watch the anime said that it was pretty consistent with the show. And then there was one other quote he said that I wanted to hit on. Where it was towards the bottom here.
Where he was talking about what he wants to like, what he sees as like legitimate changes, or
yeah, I think
there.
yeah. So that to my mind is the kind of stuff you're called upon to do in Hollywood that is legitimate. He even noted that this is why the Iron Throne is not depicted in the show as it's written in the books. And in the books, it's basically a 15-foot high throne. It's huge. So stuff like that is normal. But he just blasts these people on thinking, oh, this was the last part right here. He has since attempted to distance himself from the show's ending, talking about Game of Thrones. And he says, by season 5 and 6, and certainly 7 and 8, I was pretty much out of the loop. As for why he was seemingly out of loop, he said, I don't know. You have to ask Dan and David. He also informed the outlet that my ending will be very different if we ever actually get his ending. I still don't believe he's ever going to finish those
He's
books,
changed that though too, because he previously said that the ending was very similar to his, which indicates he was in contact with him. So my speculation
he said that originally.
Yeah. So he sees that the backlash to the show is bad, and he's trying to distance himself, in my opinion, on that front. I think he's right on the, like, that's something I say all the time. Like, why isn't DC just literally adapt their comic books that were wildly successful instead of having people like James Gunn make his own Superman movie? Why don't you just literally do an adaptation of the best-selling Superman comic? Like, they have those sales data. Why don't they do that? Like, that's seemingly what they kind of did with the animated stuff. Obviously, they would add tweaks and stuff like that, like they did with Killing Joke, which was just absolutely bizarre and just disgusting what they added to that animated film. But I mean, a lot of these movies, they do indeed work well as direct adaptations. I think Zack Snyder's Watchmen does a pretty good job. Obviously, it changes the ending to Dr. Manhattan over the squid, but I actually think that works better for that story, in my opinion. That's one of the 999 out of 1,000, right? But he's absolutely right. Just stick to the what's already written. There's a reason why it's popular. And just do it. You aren't better than J.R. Tolkien. You aren't better than Stan Lee. You're not better than Ian Fleming.
Yeah, and then of course
if
we
you
got
were,
the
you'd
news.
Be making your own IPs and not doing theirs.
And we also got the news this week on the Wangs of Power that's now going to be changing Tom Bombadil and basically changing that character.
Yeah,
he doesn't look anything like the character.
Did you hear what he said? Did you hear how he explained it? He's like, he's 5 or 10% different. Who does that sound like? That sounds like us with all the changes that they were making in Star Trek with what Gary would always say. They have to do 5 or 10% difference. And same with the Star Wars with Lucas.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like C-3PO with the red arm, the X-Wings with the slightly different design, just change it up enough to where it's not the exact same so that we can monetize this stuff.
I blame Mike.
And I think that's why Game of Thrones was actually really successful too. Going back to what George R. Martin was saying, the first season is literally the first book. Like I didn't read the book. I hadn't read the books before. Watched the first season and I started reading the books, and it was pretty much the first book. And I think that's why that show got so successful, is because it was true to the book, at least in the beginning.
Yeah, and then it just felt so rushed at the end there on those last couple seasons. But this is the kind of crap that we get from Hollywood producers and writers and showrunners and stuff these days. Culture, thoughts?
You guys nailed it. I mean, we're dealing with the 20% different, 10% different kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Look, there's so much missing from his character. He was very much more flamboyant and colorful and all of that. I mean, his boots were yellow I mean, they were not just like a little yellow; they were like bright yellow. I mean, just if you go into the description of the character, and I mean, there's a lot there.
You don't like his dusty brown boots in the show?
Hey, I tell you what, I'm going to say something that might surprise you all. I expected zero fidelity to anything in this Rings of Power show. So the fact that they're stepping away from something that I would consider classic isn't surprising to me. They had little to work with when they started, and yet they pushed on. They offered probably one of the most ridiculous seasons of television I've ever seen, and I'm not alone because 70% of the people who started it didn't finish it. I think this season's going to be even
It might actually
worse.
be more than that, because it was like 63% in the US and something like 50% or something in overseas, I think is what Hollywood Reporter said. So the total percentage might actually be higher.
That's insane. Yeah, I just look at these things and go, you're just burning money, and they're doing it for very obvious reasons. I mean, it's just like and we kind of just touched on a bunch of them with the Star Wars thing. I mean, it's like in activism, it's only about your message. It's only about the power behind your message, and eventually, ultimately, it's only about power. But when it comes to these things, it's just I don't know. I wish I was wrong. It'd be nice to be wrong on some of this stuff, but I have no expectations for this, and I feel bad because this is probably the only time you'll see Tom Bombadil in anything.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll be wrong about the Acolyte culture. Maybe it'll be the best show on TV.
Absolutely not.
Are you
Everything we are seeing is confirming what we initially thought about this show.
Oh, it's going to be
literally, it's all
show.
confirmation.
And House of the Dragon season 2 is going to destroy Rings of Power. And I thought that first season of that show was going to be garbage, and I actually ended up liking it. It's very similar to X-Men 97. Me and Coach watched that show just ready to just torch it because we're such fans of the old 90s original X-Men animated series, and it actually ended up being really good and stayed true to the original show. And so surprisingly, it turned out to be good. I know some people don't like where they're going with the comic book storyline that they're taking it in. I actually like that storyline back in the day. There's some of my favorite comics back in the 90s. But yeah, I thought it was excellent. So I was wrong on that show, which is that doesn't really happen very often. Most of the time we get all these leaks and hear all this news about it, and it's all pretty much spot on. So
I just want to point out, going back to the Tom Bombadil thing, they couldn't even get the costume right. Like, he's supposed to be, as Culture said, he's supposed to be wearing these bright colors. If you can't even get something that simple right, you think they're gonna get the character right? It's an insult. It's a slap in the face. I mean, he's wearing these drab he blends in with the background of the stone. The blue coat does not look blue at all. It's like a gray.
Yep. Mike, any thoughts or comments on this?
No, I agree with everything you guys said. I don't have anything better to add.
All right. Real quick, Graph Web sends in $2, #cancel Disney Plus. Yes. Done. So many people have canceled Disney Plus, and I guarantee you the Acolyte's not going to be bringing in no new subscribers. And you can also get your #cancel Disney Plus shirt on our merch store. Also, KDK7 for $5. He was out of the loop because he didn't write the books the show was supposed to be based on. The show's ending was half George R.R. Martin's fault. I think that's fair. Point there.
Agree. I'd say it's more than half, because I think Dan and Dave did it. Like I said, the first season was a really good adaptation.
Yeah, of the first
and
book.
I feel like they did a pretty good job of adapting the show until they ran out of source material. And once they ran out, they were just going off of his notes. They didn't actually have the books.
Yeah.
And you got what you got.
And maybe that's one reason why he said he wasn't really involved that much, because honestly, he didn't have that much to provide to him. That could also be the case. Maybe they're like, hey, George, what's going on? Where are you taking it? and maybe he just didn't have any answers for him. So, HBO execs and stuff are like, hey, we got to get this next season going. And they just basically had to come up with crap on their own. I mean,
yeah, he said he was going to be finished with Winds of Winter like 4 years ago. And he said
Yeah.
if he wasn't, you can chain him to like a house in a volcano.
yeah.
Still hasn't finished it.
Yep.
Well,
And who
I think that's probably because nobody bothered to chain him in a house near a volcano.
Yeah, he
Maybe
got
we
his
need to go
big
hijack
payday.
his train. We need to go hijack his train and take that into the volcano.
Yeah, what's that saying? Like it's sort of like he got his dessert before he ate dinner. He automatically transported to the finish line. He got paid, got his money, and he's like, I'm rich now. I don't feel like writing these books.
They're doing the House of the Dragon prequel. They've got the short story that they're doing that Mike S. Miller adapted to the comic book. It's like I forget what it's called, like the Squire and the Knight or something like that. The Knight in the Pip or something. They're doing that, and I think there's an animated show too that they're working on.
Yep. Yeah,
and that's just Game of Thrones stuff because he's got other stuff that I think he's got stuff in development.
Yeah, I did want to ask Mike. We're going to be wrapping up here in a minute, guys. I know normally we all kind of hit on some topics, but all the stuff we covered, we kind of went on and on about. But I did want to ask Mike real quick if there was any updates to this Nelson Peltz thing with him selling all his stock, because I know you brought it up on Doomcock stream Wednesday night. You just got kind of alerted on it, and I was curious if there was anything new going on with any of that.
Well, I mean, Culture can help me with this as well, but I mean, there's a lot of angles to this. One angle is that he took his marbles and went home, and he made a lot of marbles. He made $1 billion. I mean, it was disclosed that he bought a lot. I mean, some of the stock was at 109, some of it was at 78. But if he sold at 120, that would certainly justify the $1 billion valuation of profit. So he took his marbles and went home. Now we know that's the fact. Beyond that, there's speculation. One item of speculation is that maybe he'll be back. Maybe he'll watch from afar. Maybe he'll be back. If he does, the stock's going to have to drop again, which means that if he does come back, he's taking his marbles off the table, and with the idea that, hey, I'll come back later once Bob continues to fail, because Bob will fail. Let's not make any mistake about this. Bob Iger will fail. And even just by selling and having that announcement go out, that's also going to put pressure on Iger to perform. And if the stock doesn't perform, he could, a guy like Peltz could come back better, stronger later. But if I were him, I wouldn't come back for a while, if I came back at all, because
I wouldn't
here
either.
you have a company that Peltz is used to working with a board, and even though management and even in some cases the board of directors might not welcome him, and every other time that he's done this, and he's done this a lot, he's done it for decades, he goes into a company, he works with the board, and management follows the direction of the board, and management executes the new and improved Peltz plan at all these other companies. And it's worked out every single time, except at Disney where he lost. Now, the reason why if I were him, I might not come back at all, or I would need radical change that would have to happen before I came back, is because Disney isn't a place where the board leads and the management follows. No, it's the opposite. Iger is the management. He's the king. He's the president, CEO, and he has handpicked these board of directors, because normally the way it works is that if you're the president of a company, you report to a board that independently provides oversight. This board provides no independent oversight. No. And what Iger did is he did three things. He got the board to make sure that they were lined up against Peltz and anyone else like Peltz. He has a management structure and a management team. He actually did four things now that I think about it. He has a management team around him that thinks he's just the bee's knees. He's got media people, and that includes Hollywood type people and other media people that are just, in mainstream media that are going to sing his praises. And he's got friends on Wall Street that he's been bullshitting for a long time that gave him the benefit of the doubt. And those Wall Street friends essentially were the ones that voted with what he wanted and against Peltz. So if I were Peltz, I would look at this landscape and say, you know what? Until there's massive change at Disney, I don't think I'd come back because it's an insurmountable campaign. I said early on that I didn't think Peltz was going to win. I hoped he would win, but I didn't think he would win because Peltz doesn't understand the fight. He doesn't understand his enemy. He was treating Bob with kid gloves, and he doesn't understand that he was going into literally a gunfight at the OK Corral, and all he brought was a plastic butter knife and a spork. That is how Nielsen may have bought some stock, but he bought too little. He bought it too late. He didn't buy enough. And what he should have done is he should have gone on a social media tour and gotten everybody to line up against him and had a popularity contest. But no, Nelson Peltz thought that he could just do it the same way he's done with every other company. And Disney is not every other company, Nick, because Disney is woke corporate patient zero. They are there is no other, I believe that there is no other company on the planet that means more to commie, woke, leftist, lunatic, DEI people than Disney. Why is that? Because Disney is a quintessential Americana company. It is in alignment, or had been, with baseball, apple pie, cookies, and all of the Americana.
Children.
Exactly, but not anymore. Those days are long gone. And so by commies and wokesters and people that hate our country to be able to get their hands on Disney, Disney is patient 01. And Nelson Peltz thought he was playing the game of capitalists. And in reality, he was lined up in a political war against communists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he realized that a little bit. I think he did realize that, but like you said, he realized it at the end because that's when he started calling like Marvel woke and stuff like that. Right at the end,
Yeah,
it was already
it was too late.
Too
it was
late.
like in the last 2 weeks, and he was He waited too long to launch his battle. He should have started sooner, gone harder, and gone faster sooner in the paint.
Yeah,
but what do I know?
If he had continued like since January. Because remember he like backed off in January and then he restarted in November. But if he had continued and gone through the entire summer, I definitely feel like he could have kept the pressure on, and maybe things turn out a little bit differently.
Yeah, and he has too much hope and faith that he was going to plead his case, and people would just say, "Gee, that sounds great, Nelson. We're with you. That sounds really intelligent." People aren't logical about Disney. People are passionate and emotional. Just look at all of us on YouTube talking about Disney, Star Wars, or Marvel.
Yeah. Culture, thoughts?
No, I can't say better than Mike. Yeah. I look, I mean, as we wrap up today, I'm just going to say that I'm looking at the stock price. It got a little bump today, but we're still well below that $120 a share that he sold at. And I don't see it coming back up, much to, I bet, Mike's chagrin, which I'm very sorry about. And I've been worried about Disney for a long time. Now it's pretty clear to me that, as Mike said, you got woke patient 0. I don't know that I could add any more. Mike was on point.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap up, guys. I did see Sparta 300, no Nick Riccati discussion during this stream.
We don't do that.
We don't talk. This is more pop culture stuff, not YouTube drama stuff. I will say this, though. It'll probably be the only comment I make on this. I've been paying very close attention to the whole story. I've been reading everybody's comments, watching people's streams on it. Legal Mindset, I would highly suggest going over there, checking out his videos on it. But I hope Nick bounces back from this and he gets his shit together and gets clean. So prayers for Nick Riccati that he gets everything together. But with that said, guys, like I said in last night's stream, if you guys are going to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area next week, I will be at Fan Expo with several people there, several other YouTubers next Friday and Saturday. Andy Masterson, Rob Wright, Gary Ambrosia. So if you guys are going to be at the Fan Expo in Dallas next week, we will all be there. Just look on the community page of the YouTube channel here. And
I I can tell you there's a lot of people going to be there because
Yeah.
Comics Division's going to be there. Obviously, a lot of the FNT crew.
Yeah.
Obviously, Eric July. I mean, it's going to be a massive event this time that I'm missing, which bums me out.
Yeah, I was surprised you weren't making it to this one because you're not that far from Dallas, are you?
I know, and
I mean, as far as flying goes,
there's a reason. Oh, I would drive anyway. But there's a reason for that, and you know, it's an important one. So yeah, but I'll be at the next meetup. I might even be at ICCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCCC
year and hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Well, I can't possibly go for a year, Mike. But
No,
I mean, I'll definitely come by, say hi.
Yep. But that's that is our meetup at Icon in Nashville this October. You can go to ICCC.
Mexican
Yeah.
Ironman will be in Atlanta at the ATL tomorrow. I'll be watching Oakland A's against the Atlanta Braves.
Oh,
I'll
fun.
be there
Nice.
at 4:00. If you are in the Atlanta area, hit me up. I might have extra tickets. I may or may not. And I'm definitely going to be eating margaritas and nachos at a bar in near the ballpark. So if you are in downtown Atlanta and you want some free margaritas and Mexican food on Mexican Ironman's credit card, be in the ATL tomorrow, Saturday night, 8:00. Hit me up on Twitter. Send me, go to my community page on my YouTube channel that I don't use, and let me know if you're in the ATL.
Hell, if I wasn't going to a show and going out of town tonight for the weekend, hell, I would have drove over to Atlanta. That's a freaking short drive for me.
Yeah.
John, what do you got going on? What do you got coming up, buddy?
Yeah, just continuing to cover stuff that's happening over on thatparkplace.com. Probably cover some of the Star Wars stuff. There's a lot of video game stuff that's happening as well. So yeah, just continuing to kind of do what I do every single day. Write up articles on thatparkplace.com, make videos on the Trent Report, and then obviously this weekend I have a stock car racing channel too. Probably be covering some worldwide technology stuff as they are out in I think they're in St. Louis. I think that's where that is out there. So that should be fun.
Yeah, and links to everybody's stuff is in the description below, guys. Culture, what do you got going on? What do you got coming up, buddy?
I recorded a video right before we got started here. I'm going to drop it. It's on the basically the burning of Hollywood. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Going down.
And then later today, I have the great privilege of hosting Demogeni on my post-flight interview show, which is starts at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, right after FNT is starting to wrap up, or right after they end. So do check that out. Lord Commander Demogeni, a famous Star Wars fan amongst other things. So do come and check us out. It'll be a lot of fun.
And thank all you guys for being here today, supporting EBN Cast. I'm going to end our poll that we started at the beginning, and the results are in. Mike is a YouTuber.
There are additional, hold on, I'm late breaking news. I've just been informed that there are additional votes that need to be tabulated here.
You said you are going to be in Atlanta, right? So
yeah, I've just found additional 3,000 votes
In
that
Georgia.
need to be tabulated in the after hours after the stream.
All right.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here. As we always say here, we are You Are Echo Based Network. And until the next one, guys, we'll see y'all later.
Coach and Nick from Echo Base Network, thank you so much for being here with us tonight at Echo Base TV, where community happens.